Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita, Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam, Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So welcome to our new person, Eka Bhumi. And the two chants that we do, I don't know if you know them. The first is 3 verses from the Guru Stotram, which I do out of reverence for my teacher. The second is one of the Upanishadic Shanti mantras, a mangalam, to invoke our study together. So we are in the 15th chapter, Purushottama Yoga. Uttama Purusha. So Atik had asked a question beforehand. Is Gita always considered non-dual? No. It is commented on by many, many schools of philosophy. So the Hare Krishnas, the ISKCON people, they will translate Purushottama as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, something other that we worship. Ramanuja, I am the drop, God is the ocean. But we Advaitins, we translate Purushottama as the supreme essence, what it is that makes me a person. Purusha just means person. Usually in the Advaita tradition, translated as supreme spirit, another name for the self. Now, Gita borrows the language of an older philosophy called Sankhya, where it says, Purusha, the little glob of spirit that's me, gets all tangled up in nasty old matter. You've got to beat up all the matter to get it out. But the Advaitins will use the same language, but with a very different meaning. Here, Uttama Purusha, another name for Krishna, another name for Brahman, another name for Atman, another name for you, which is birthless, changeless, deathless. The ground of being for the whole universe and the self of every creature. So we kind of went through a whole list of some of those attributes that point to the ultimate reality. Again, we can't define it. Second chapter, Krishna says, he who knows, knows it not. Oh, I understand it. I know everything you know about it. So, but she who knows it not knows it. Meaning she has the capacity to unknow the mind. All right, what verse are we on tonight?
6.
Can you help us out, please, Deepa?
न तत् भासयते सूर्यो न शशाङ्को न पावकः यत् गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम. Neither does the sun shine there, nor the moon, nor fire, to which having gone they return not. That is my supreme abode.
Yes. So, again, we cannot take this literalistically. Oh, there's some place where there's no sun and no moon, and I'm going to go there. No. What it means here is in that quiet mind, I'm beginning to see the space between my thoughts. With the attentive faculty turned within, in you. Who notices the sound outside? When I get a glimpse of my real nature, Chidakash, that space of consciousness, individual sense of self falls. It's nothing permanent. It's nothing real. Now, here, sun, moon, and fire have to do with this objective world, the world of name and form. The sun and the moon and the fire are things that light the objects in this world. At daytime, the sun shines on stuff, we can see it. At night, if there's a moon, the moon lights stuff. If there's no moon, fire will light stuff. There's no sun, moon, or fire. You cannot have some light that will reveal yourself. Why? Because the self is self-evident. Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous, self-effulgent. How do you know you are you? I do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell myself. I do not emote myself. I'm not a feeling. I don't think myself. I can have thoughts about myself. But that's not the direct experience. Well, how do you know you are you? How do you know you are? The self is its own praman, it's its own means of knowledge. Now listen very carefully. Shrinahu. We're talking about two kinds of knowledge here. The first knowledge is real. It's the perfect knowledge. It's the self-evidence of the self. And the great cosmic joke is everybody already has it. I think I'm not realized. Okay. Do you exist? Yes. What's your existence? Total ignorance, Jim. Do you know that you have ignorance? Yes. So even in your ignorance, you thunder, I am, I know. But on top of that direct experience comes all the mischief of the mind, the avidya. So as we go through sadhana, we do a modicum of renunciation, letting go of attachment, identification. Neti, neti, not this, not this. I'm not the body, I'm not the prana, I'm not the feelings, I'm not the thoughts. Who am I? Oh, there's nothing there. Just the space of your awareness. And this aha in the subtle intellect that has the realization, the pratyabhignana, the recognition. And the buddhi, the intellect, becomes buddha, away. So the subtle intellect reflects on this direct experience. Aham brahmasmi, I am. So as Yoga Vasishta says, both bondage and liberation occur in the mind. The self is ever free. So you don't gain freedom, free rebirth. You don't become merged with Brahman. You don't attain Brahman. Realize we've always been Brahman. So let's say you have a dream, but you have a terrible fight with someone that you care for. It's so sad, and you're so angry, and then you wake up. Oh my God, thank God it was just a dream. I'm cool with so and so. The dreamer did not resolve their problem. The dreamer did not attain the waker. The dreamer didn't merge into the waker. We could say the dreamer became the waker, but not really. You are there. It was the mind that had the dream. So also it is the mind that has the dream that I'm the body plus the personality that goes through all the suffering. That's all it is. So at the moment of realization, listen very carefully. Realization is not, oh, now I am a Mahatma, a realized person. Come study with me and I will give you great wisdom. No. First of all, you see how stupid you've been. and you understand I was never born in the first place. Now listen carefully. When you realize your own self, you realize the self in everybody else. And that's Swayambhu, that's self-evidence. That's Swayam Jyoti, that self-effulgence, is the only real knowledge. This is why so many of our Prakarana texts, our workbook texts, when the Shisha gets enlightened at the end, they say, oh, the bondage wasn't real, the liberation wasn't real, the scriptures are not real, the Shisha isn't real, the Guru isn't real. It's all Maya. What's real? Aham. I. Don't try to be an enlightened person. Remember, you are Brahman. No personal sense of self is real. Now, when they say no sun, no moon, no fire shines there, the self is Krishna. What's Krishna mean in Sanskrit?
Dark
Darkness.
one? The dark one, or
Dark or black.
Mhm.
We have the opposite. Ch.15 is online. Ch.15 is white. Krishna's dark. It's dark because there's no thing there. No form. Nirupaham, I am without a form. Nirmalam, I'm without any dirt or taint. Achintyam, no thought is there. In the end, Avyupadesham. Upadesha means to talk about stuff. Avyupadesha means untalked about. Unknowable as an object, but always known. It's myself. Beautiful, beautiful poetry with deep, deep implications. Any thoughts or questions about this? You don't have to understand, just ask.
when they're referring to sun, moon, and fire, are they also referring to the three central channels of the body? Is that an illusion?
That's an illusion too.
Yeah.
So if you have a dream that you see Casper the ghost, and Casper the ghost has nadis going everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you wake up. Are the nadis real?
It was just a dream.
So have you ever looked at the Mandukya Upanishad?
I have not read that Upanishad.
Okay, that's the most advanced, shortest. It's only 12 mantras.
Oh, nice.
It's traditionally studied with the Gaudapada Karika. Gaudapada was Adi Shankar's grandfather guru. A Karika is a gloss. It's shorter than a commentary, a Bhashya. And Gaudapada wrote one that's 4 chapters. And in the second chapter, in the 4th Karika, Gaudapada says, the phenomena, the objects in the dream state, though seen, are seen to be unreal, illusion. Likewise, the waking state objects, including the body, mind, intellect, are also unreal. And the proof of their unreality is you can see them.
Right, because there's perception of object. Right.
If it is objective phenomena,
Right.
without exception, it is imagination. Now, that imagination comes about at two levels. So, first, there is the cosmic imagination. So, there's the ground of being, Brahman. And out of Brahman, nobody knows how or why, it just does, comes the idea of Brahma, the creator. Or as those of us who've just finished Prajna Upanishad, Prajapati, the creator, or Ishwara, the Lord. He's the dude who's doing the dreaming. And that creator principle imagines all this. How sankalpena, by means of sankalpa. Is this a word you know? So let's, pardon me?
Sankalpaha, yes.
Sankalpa is wish, will, thought, intention, desire. It is the process whereby an imagination seems to grossify and become a thing. You see that? So galaxies and black holes and planets and stars and grains of sand and the beautiful flower you brought. These are Ishwara's sankalpa. Comes about by means of imagination. It's not created, it's not manifested. Comes about by means of sankalpa. Now, listen carefully. It is inherently neutral. It's not a good black hole or a bad black hole. It's not a just star or an unjust star. It's not a evil grain of sand or a virtuous grain of sand. It's neutral. Now, listen carefully. Every phenomenal manifestation is inherently neutral. Now, the apparent jivas, this function in my subtle intellect, reflection of consciousness caught in the subtle intellect, also has the capacity for sankalpa. Now, we have a very limited ability. You can bring things about, you know.
Limited you.
Well, Priya's a really good cook. You know?
Thanks.
You know, she makes wonderful rasam. That's her sankalpa.
Ah, right.
Now, the other thing the individual mind does is it projects value judgment. I love her cooking. Somebody goes, oh, it's too spicy. You see that?
Value judgment.
That's all my imagination. So, oh, they're so terrible. No, they're just one of the Lord's manifestations. Oh, this person's so brilliant. They're so wonderful. Biden is good. Trump is bad. All just sankalpa. It's all inherently neutral. But we superimpose stuff on it. Now, what does a yogi need to do? First of all, understand that everything you think about anything in the world is just your stupid ass opinion, without exception.
Mhm.
And when the mind itself is gone, the world disappears. So a yogi, the world isn't bad. It's just not real. So the yogi learns to not take it seriously. This making sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, there was a question in Zoom land.
Yes, Jim. I was so when one realizes that they are the self, do the nature of the thoughts change? Do they become like, does the value judgment go away?
Yes. Well, you will have preferences, but your sense of insistence completely disappears. Part of the mind in ignorance is it feels like I need to have this and I'll never have that. I am bereft of happiness, joy, or peace, and I need to play whack-a-mole with the world or fix myself in order for it to be okay. All of that goes completely.
Okay.
Now, the surface of the mind will always have its preferences. That's okay. But you will know, even before realization dawns on the mind, whether or not you absolutely must have it this way, or you're sitting at home going, oh, I want it. You know whether it's an insistence, you perceive it as a need or a necessity, or whether it's a preference. Now, I'm going to get real subtle here. The cause of all that is what we call vasana. Ache, is this a word you've heard of before?
Vasana fluctuations.
Vasana is an impression left in the mind.
Oh, right, yes.
As the result of previous egoistic actions. And it has two powers: veiling power, Varana Shakti, and projecting power. So, when the mind is under the throes of vasana, first thing that happens is the non-apprehension of myself as Brahman.
The veiling power.
Then comes the Vikshepa Shakti. I think I'm a person. I have a goal. And this is serious business. Struggle. Kartavya. So the watchword is, if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. Never, ever, ever project your misery onto the world. It's foolishness. Why do I have a disturbance? Attachment, expectation, identification. So simple. Unnecessarily easy. Get over your cheap self. Drop it. Lean into it. Don't try to run away from misery. Be with the material of the mind. See it for what it is. It's a function of my ignorance. It's a spiritual hangover. Okay. Anything else, Atik? Is that useful?
Yes, that's useful, Jim. Thank you.
All right.
Jim?
Next. Yes. Shweta, is that you?
Yeah, it's me. I just wanted to add a little bit to, this discussion we had about how Krishna is the dark one. There's a very beautiful symbolism, which is coming from physics. So in physics, black is the absence of light.
Yes.
So it's not a color in itself, but it absorbs all the wavelengths. and it can exist in nature even if there is no light. So I find that to be very symbolic, that sort of even in the physical world, there is this beautiful sort of uh, I don't know what word to use, but it's the same idea, right?
It's
Even
the
manifestation.
substratum of everything. It is the light that comes and goes up and down with different wavelengths and particles and stuff. But the dark is always there as the substratum. It's beautiful physics.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that somehow, I mean, the name Krishna was chosen, and this dual was there with physics.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. All right. Any other thoughts or questions on this shloka? Next verse.
ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूत सनातनः मनःषष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति. An eternal portion of myself, having become a living.
Say again.
An eternal portion of myself, having become living souls in the world of life, abiding in Prakriti, draws to itself the five senses with mind for the sixth.
So here is an allusion to yoga's spiritual anthropology. What is it that is a human being? So in the West, we have what we call a Cartesian split. The mind is separate from the body. In yoga, we don't have that. It's a continuum of gross and subtle. There's a visible part of the human being, and there's an invisible part of the human being. Just like an iceberg, 1/10 of the iceberg is visible above the ocean. 9/10 of it is invisible. It's beneath the surface. So, what happens? We talked a bit about who is doing the creating of the universe. Ch.15, the creator God. Or we could say Krishna himself, consciousness. And one of the things that consciousness manifests is the individual beings. And the first, we call it the jiva in this text. It can sometimes be a problematic word because the sense of individuality is not an entity. It's a kind of thinking. The jiva is not inherently aware. Now, the best way for me to illustrate this is with a teaching aid. Okay. This is a mirror. So the subtle intellect acts like a mirror. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see the light in the mirror? Is there a light in the mirror?
No, it's just transmitting the light from outside of itself.
It's reflecting it, yes. Yes. Now, if I had 4 mirrors, would there be 4 lights? 1 light, 4 reflections of it. But it's different than if I hold up the backside. You see any light coming out of the backside? No. So the front side, which is the silver glass, has the capacity to reflect. So Gaudapada, we were talking about his karika.
Mhm.
In that karika, he uses the terminology jiva bhavana. Bhavana means a feeling or an attitude. So it's the feeling that I'm a person. So those of us who are studying Panchadashi on Monday nights, Vidyaranya uses the term chid abhasa. What's abhasa? Is there a Hindi word similar to that?
Abhas is the
Okay.
experience of.
Abhasa in Sanskrit means a reflection. So the reflection of consciousness. Another one that we see in the scriptures is chit chaya. Chaya means shadow or reflection. Now, Shankara has a very, very famous image. You have to imagine that you're in the south of India in Kerala, where there's 3 seasons, hot, hotter, and hottest.
And wet.
Were you in Kerala? And he was a Nambudri, so he had one of these Nambudri houses. And if you've ever seen one of those old Nambudri houses, they're just beautiful, but they always have a portico. And he would be teaching probably in the evening because it was a bit cooler. And the ladies had brought up 6 jars of water for people to drink and cook with and stuff like that. And it's a night of a full moon. Moon is in the sky. Shankara says, look at the moons in the jars. Each one of the 6 jars has a moon in it. Look at the jar, and sure enough, you see a moon. Is there really a moon in the jar? But the surface of the water, which is like the intellect, has the capacity to reflect consciousness. So I, Jim, know that I had pad thai for lunch when I went to the symphony. I, Jim, heard the Mahler Fifth today. I, Jim, listened to the news on the radio. What you folks did and what you knew was different. That individual knower, which Krishna here is calling the jiva, is a reflected knower. Now, we've got our jars of water with the 6 moons in it. If I go like this into the water, what happens to the reflected moon in the jar of water? It's broken. That's like my mind and your mind. Oh, I was so terrible yesterday. I screamed and yelled and so. Oh, man, was I just hot stuff yesterday. I was so charming and smart, and I think that person liked me. Tall, I'm short, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm old, I'm young, I'm smart, I'm stupid, I'm virtuous, I'm vicious, are all qualities of the mind, intellect, or body. And in the subtle intellect, this chit chaya, this reflection, one of the things it does is it attributes to the self the qualities of the not self. So if the mirror that I used to shine the light were defective, let's say there was a crack in it. You saw the light. Oh, there's a crack in Jim's light. No, there's a crack in the mirror. So what do? We have attributed to the light the quality of the mirror. Another real life experience. Maybe some of you have done this. So you go to a fancy restaurant and you need to use the men's room or the ladies' room. You go in, get ready to wash your hands, and there's this mirror. It's slightly tinted and it's indirect lighting. And I'm looking good tonight. And then you go to Target to try on a pair of slacks. There's cheap mirrors and fluorescent lighting, and you go into the fitting room, put on the trousers, and every fold of fat shows. And you look at your skin, you see veins in your face. Anybody have that experience? Now, which is true? What you looked like in the fancy restaurant, or what you looked like at Target? What have we done? We attribute to the body the qualities of the mirror. Take that to an extreme, you go to a fun house at a county fair. That's what you and I do all day long. What do you think of me? Oh, what do you think of me? Well, what do you think of me? How am I doing is what you think of me. We seek self in the funhouse mirrors of other people's minds. Who here has got a, what do they call it? Is it a PIP, P-I-P? Is that what you call it?
Performance improvement plan.
Yes. Anybody here ever got one of those at work? Yes, no? How does that make you feel? Or, I only got met expectations. I didn't get exceeds expectations. What have we done? I've attributed to my body, mind, intellect, somebody else's opinion. This is how ego functions. This is what it's supposed to do. The man or woman of wisdom sees the fundamental unreality of it. Because there's no moon in the jar. There's no real self that's an individual. It is a function in the intellect. Stop the mind, and the personal sense of self stops. You don't need to stop it completely, just thin it out a bit. And watch all that paranoid self-observation disappear. So, Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, is not God out there. It starts by going through the process of mature vairagya. Who can tell me what vairagya is? Dispassion, which comes through insight. That desire to give up attachment to all experiences gained through the senses and all identifications with thoughts of self, starting from the body up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator, meaning I keep that in that person. All of it must go. As we let go of that attachment and identification, the cause of the mind meaning it's neurotic self-observation. Thins out. And then we can easily see quiet mind. Just listen to the traffic for a moment. Who hears it? I do. Who are you? What's the nature of that I? If you just stop the thinking a little bit. See, there's no person there. But there's I. What's the nature of that I? Read our English this time, and I'm totally having a senior moment with the rest of the verse.
An eternal portion of myself, having become living souls in the world of life, abiding in Prakriti, draws to itself the five senses with mind for the sixth.
Yes. So it's this reflected self that draws to itself sense perception. I, Jim, see. I, Jim, hear, etc. I, Jim, feel and think. But the truth is, that's not a real entity. There's no solid thing called the jiva. Just like when you dream. I love to ask this question. Do you incarnate into the dream? Are you in the dream or is the dream in you? But it feels like I have a dream body with a dream ego identified with it, and I see a dream world, the senses, and I have thoughts and feelings about that dream world, mind. But all of it is created by my mind. And I prove that because when I wake up, where does it go? Poof. Now we can say it's certainly a very vivid experience. It's a real experience with a small r. Sense of egoism is no different. You made it up. But you go nowhere. Who sees the mirror? Like you. That's yourself. You don't get a new self. We just drop false identification, the false assumptions. And what's eternal, it's always there. Oh, I thought I was a miserable worm. I'm not. I'm that ground of being, eternal changes, witnessing consciousness. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
Could it be said that Brahma is also dreaming our dream, or dreaming us having a dream?
Yes.
And the dream that we're dreaming is also a dream of Brahma by extension?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
So the way in which it's so beautifully said in poetry is by Ibn al-Arabi. Are you familiar with him? He's a Sufi master from Spain, a contemporary actually of Francis of Assisi. But he uses the metaphor that the subtle intellect is like a mirror. Now, in those old-timey days, a mirror was not silver glass. A mirror was polished metal. So most of us have a pretty crusty, corroded mind. So what do we do through meditation, through renunciation, through spiritual practices? We polish the mind until it becomes like a clear mirror. And then God sees the mirror, which is God. And in the mirror sees God. God seeing God, seeing God.
And is that Vimarsha?
Pardon me?
Is that Vimarsha?
Vimarsha means deliberation.
Okay.
So that's when the mind's going, rah, 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 rah.
Okay.
So samadhi, the human mind is prakash, light, plus vimarsha, deliberation. When the vimarsha is gone, all that's left is the prakash. When the mind returns from samadhi, it is conditioned by that. The mind sees its own fundamental unreality.
Thank you.
These are terms that we don't normally see them in the straight Vedanta stuff. Vimarsha and Prakash usually show up in the tantric works. But the idea is the same. Tripura Rahasya has those ideas. Does that make a little clearer?
Yes, I haven't heard Vimarsha described that way, but it totally makes sense. Yes.
How have you heard it described?
Self-reflection or recursive thought.
But it's not necessarily the thought I am Brahman. You could say that's a kind of vimarsha. But the problematic part of it is, how am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? This is good, that's bad. That's vimarsha. Literally means deliberation.
Thank you.
All right. Any other thoughts, questions, epithets, comments? Next verse.
शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वेत्तानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात्. When the Lord obtains a body, and when he leaves it, he takes these and goes with them, as the wind takes the scents from their seeds or the flowers.
So again, we have to see on what level the teaching is being done. What is it that incarnates? What is it that moves from incarnation to incarnation? And is it the self? So, the water glass is like the physical body. The water in the glass is like the subtle body. What is the subtle body? The 5 subtle organs of perception, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The subtle form of hands, feet, the tongue, anus, and genitals. The prana, the mind, the intellect, the karta, the sense of agency, ahankriti, the ego, and the latent impressions, the vasanas. That is the subtle body. You run around in a dream in your subtle body. You see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, think in the dream. It uses the physical body to conduct its transactions in the waking state. Is that part of it clear? Yes, no. So, if this glass gets a crack in it, and I got water in it, I can get another glass and pour the water into it. Toss the broken glass away. That's reincarnation. The subtle body moving from one container to another. So what happens to the physical body? It is born, it grows up, it gets its allotted dose of successes and failures, joys and sorrows. It has sickness. Then it's like an old car. Maybe you here have an old car or had an old car. Carburetor doesn't carb, the generator doesn't jet, the pistons, they just don't work. So you jump, get a new car. You open the door, get out of the old car, you get into a new car. That's the physical body. Listen carefully. You are like the space in the glass. If I break the glass, what happens to the space? Anything?
Unchanged.
Change. If I drink all the water, what happens to the space?
Well, it's less wet.
Space cannot be wet.
True.
Now, magic trick. So you see the space in the glass? Watch it. Watch the space, not the glass. Did I move space?
Still there.
If I break the glass, does the space merge with the room space? Does it become room space? Nothing happens to it, ever. Vedanta thunders the doctrine of ajati. What does ajati mean? Unborn. Well, then why do we teach the doctrine of reincarnation? It is useful for those in ignorance. It helps explain a whole lot of stuff. Just like there is cause and effect in a dream. Who here has had a dream recently? Did you have one? You go by Eka?
Eka's great.
Eka. What was your dream?
I dreamed that I was at a poetry reading.
Okay. So were you reading poetry or was someone else?
I was hosting the show.
You were hosting the show.
Yeah.
So did you get all the stuff together and the stage and the chairs, stuff like that? So there was cause and effect in your dream.
Apparently, yeah.
Well, to the dream people and to the dream you, there was cause and effect.
Absolutely.
It had a relative reality.
Absolutely right.
But from the viewpoint of the waker, was the cause and effect real?
No.
Yes. So as long as we are in the dream of spiritual ignorance, which most people are, and it's not likely that we will attain self-realization in a life. Understanding karma, cause and effect, understanding the results of our actions, punya and papam, can be useful. I like to draw this parallel. Is Newtonian physics true?
Only in a relative sense.
Well, it's true or it's not true.
It's as true as the other kind.
Well, I'm not talking from the standpoint of metaphysics. But if you are talking about relativity, no, Newtonian physics is a partial understanding.
Yeah.
Or if you're talking about quantum physics, no, it's a partial understanding. But Newtonian physics is useful for the vast majority of people for their worldly transactions.
Right.
I don't think many of us are fat enough to be bending space-time. I'm getting close. But you get my point. So for most people, the doctrine of reincarnation can be valuable. So Nikhil out there, he studied Vedic astrology. Is it true or not true? It has a relative ability, perhaps, to be helpful to those people who are identified with the body and the subtle body. But from the standpoint of the absolute, Swamiji used to say, it's reincarnation is the genealogy of the ghost in the post. Dark night, you see a post up ahead and you hallucinate. Optical illusion, you think there's a motor there. They must have had an abusive childhood. Someone brings a torch or a car passes by and you see, oh, it's just a post. So from the standpoint of the absolute, still so it depends on where we are identified. Now, Gita teaches on 3 levels simultaneously. It's woven together this way. It is a Dharma Shastra where it gives us suggestions for intelligent behavior in the world. Then we can identify with Arjuna, who's the universal Jinyasu, the seeker after wisdom, the Mumukshu, the seeker after liberation, the person identified with the subtle body. Or we can read Gita identified with Krishna. So whatever Krishna says about himself is true about the self. It's true about yourself. So this is how we reconcile the apparent inconsistencies in the scripture. Somebody can read this particular verse and it sounds like the self gets out of the body and goes into another body. No. You go nowhere. So if I have a dream on Monday and another dream on Tuesday and a third dream on Wednesday, have I reincarnated into these various dreams? And actually, Krishna's been very clear about it. Way back, I think it's in the 4th chapter, he says it. All this is strung on me like jewels on a thread, Mani Sutra. Self is in everybody. But in the 9th chapter, he clarifies the point. He says, I am not in them. They are in me. So for your poetry reading in your dream, were there people there reading their poetry?
Yeah.
Were you in them or were they in you?
They were in me.
But you really were the self of each one of them. And then Krishna goes on to say, well, actually, they're not really in me. You didn't wake up in the morning with one of these poets in bed with you.
No.
God. Behold my divine Maya, the support. You are the God of your dream. If you clearly understand the dream state, that's a microcosm. How all this comes about. Macrocosm. I'm not saying your ego is creating all this. Your ego is a character in Ishvara's dream. But the substratum, the conscious being, that's you, which is the very substratum of the ego. The ego is essentially inert, it's not sentient. When I hold the mirror up to the light illumines the mirror. Reflection in the mirror is a borrowed light. If I turn the lamp off, the mirror is inert. It has no prakash.
Jim,
All right. This is a good place to stop. We could probably take a question or two before we end.
I have a quick question. If the ego is just a reflection, what is its purpose? Does it cease to exist after we see we are the self, or it just serves its function, what it's supposed to do?
It always serves its function. But the person of wisdom sees that the karta, the sense of doership in the subtle intellect, is not me. That's the point.
Oh,
So people
okay.
can have a broken ahankriti. We call them multiple personalities. Or you can be schizophrenic. Most of us have an inner dialogue. Oh, golly, I forgot to do such and such. You know, those kinds of thoughts that go through your head. So a schizophrenic, their voices that come from the outside. God is telling me to go shoot people. That's just an externalization. So this function in the subtle that can get broken. These are mentally ill people. So what does the person of knowledge know? That it's not me. This used to really bug me because we would be at a camp with Swamiji and there would be a head table and I'd be near it and I'd hear him say, pass me the chutney. He thinks he used me to mean his body to get the chutney, you know. I get all freaked out. And, you know, it doesn't mean you have to talk funny. The thing that the jnani knows is that's just a function in the intellect. It's not me.
Hmm.
And then the scriptures use phrases like lila. Lila means play. And it means not only sport, like you're going to go play baseball, but it also means drama. So the person of steady wisdom allows the equipment to play its role in the drama of this world, the divine Leela. But none of it touches me. All right. What verse are we on for next week?
It's finished. I think 8.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.